The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won.
Hey boys, week 8. How are we doing? Hey Queeve.
Are we rolling?
We are live, yes brothers. NFL with a Cork accent, so we've actually decided that's going to be our nom du plume, nom de internet. So we're actually in the process of, do you want to tell them the news there about the developments?
Yeah, no, we're just going to try and brand ourselves a small bit to a Facebook page and a Twitter account called NFL with a Cork accent. So keep an eye out on our
like last week's. I know it was over an hour long. I'm sorry about that, lads. But we were having such fun, and Decky was great crack. He was very insightful, and the proof of the pudding is, like I said in Queeve there, we're heading towards 100 views for the last podcast, which is nearly twice as much as anything that we've done before. So hopefully it keeps on growing. So we're going to be pushing it even more. We actually got such a great buzz last week. We kind of rediscovered Twitter as well. So I actually tweeted out. Well, Queeve did the first kind of tweet out, then I kind of retweeted his tweet. We're still kind of new to the Twitter thing as well, you know. But I tweeted out to at Dan Hanses and Chris Wesling, who are two of my podcast heroes from the Around the NFL podcast in the States, from the NFL.com. And I actually got a favourite from Chris Wesling. So I was like, so. But
fanboy.
I'm a fanboy.
Yeah,
so we do.
You were uncontrollably happy when you told me.
We do rip off a lot of their show as well, like, you know. As I said, it's more imitation, flattery. We do our own little twist as well.
Yeah.
So that is the news for NFL with Cork accent. So then we just go on to the NFL news. So there was a lot of big games last week. A few surprising results.
As there is every week.
But somebody was pretty much on, I heard, we'll be found out later on, but somebody was pretty much on the ball with what was going on.
Spoiler alert. One
of the big things, the injury to Arian Foster, one of my stable of boys, sorry Chris Wesley, who he's just back for 2 weeks, had his best scoring week. I know a lot of those points were in garbage time. But 24 points, fantasy points, is something else. But, of course, he did say at the start of the year that he didn't believe in God. So there was a lot of people he's playing with the Houston Texans. A lot of those Texans people were, would be kind of right of centre when it comes to a lot of this religious malarkey. And didn't go down so well. So when he got his injury, there was a lot of fellas going, oh, yeah, there you go. And then he comes back from injury, has 2 good weeks, and then he's done his ACL. I think he's out for the rest of the season. And there was probably people there with the old pins and cushions or whatever. So he's down and out. And staying on the news with the Texans, Ryan Mallett is no more. Apparently, yeah, he's definitely going to be investing in an alarm clock after that.
He got stuck in traffic was the excuse this time.
Yeah, but did you hear that then as well? Apparently, it was like they got onto the Houston, Texas local radio station for a traffic report of the time. And it says there was no traffic.
There was no traffic, yeah. I mean, the guy is just... Anyone who watched Hard Knocks will see that this guy is just... How would you actually describe him? He's...
I've a note here. He's a douche.
Yeah.
Still a douchebag.
Yeah, that's pretty That's pretty accurate.
The other thing is Des staying in Texas. Des Bryant is talking about coming back, and I think they are at the Seahawks this week. So if you remember last year,
they're home to the Seahawks.
Oh, they're home to the Seahawks. All right, yeah. Because I was thinking last year they were one of the few teams to actually beat Seattle up there last year in the Clink. So that is that. we
Also, sorry, Big Ben could be back this weekend. Forgot to mention that in our pre-production, but
okay.
which obviously they've had mixed fortune since he went down. I think they've got a big game. They're home to the undefeated Bengals this week, and they need him back to have any chance of winning that. So that'll be mentioned anyway later in the picks. So now we're going to move on to go through last week's this weekend just gone's results. We're going to start with Thursday night, where the Seahawks went to Levi Stadium in San Francisco and basically beat a 49ers team that didn't even bother turning up. It was only 20 points to 3 against Seattle. Are never going to be the highest scoring team out there, but the Niners just literally couldn't get anything going. So we're going to get the scores up on the screen here now. If our
one of these years.
Yeah, if our IT
here we are.
If our IT expert can manage it.
I've blown it again this week. He was giving out to me because I was spending too much time. But it's Yeah, Seahawks basically, they put the marker down. We're back. Well, they didn't have to beat much, and Kaepernick was he was
the
awful.
regression. I think hit its. He hit his bottom, I think.
Yeah. Well, I said we watched it up in Queeve's gaff. He's got great broadband up there, and the difference between Russell Wilson and Kaepernick is Wilson. I mean, he had one pass there. It was just a lovely drop down, kind of lobbing it into the basket of, was it Jimmy Graham or Kearse or somebody? I can't remember quite who the receiver was. And obviously he did the same thing then with the touchdown for Dockett. Just a beautiful pass that only the receiver could catch. No sign of the cornerbacks even getting, or the safeties getting near it. But Kaepernick, I mean, the first 2 balls, he didn't have a completion for in the first 3 or 4 drives, did he?
No.
Yeah, and I mean, like there was a saying, he actually hit an equipment guy on the sideline who had to, I don't know if he had to go to the hospital, but he was definitely,
he got carried off.
I mean, like, yeah, he has an arm like a rocket, but he has no touch. He's no touch whatsoever.
No.
I was saying that Wilson did throw a couple of strange picks later on, but the game was well and truly over at that stage. So we'll see. What's the next game up?
We have the Wembley game, which I thought was phenomenal. I watched it at home, and I thought it was the game of the week. Jacksonville rushing up I think it was 27-3 lead before the half.
It was
due to turnovers.
There was
crazy
5
turnovers.
minutes. There was 5 minutes there where I was.
The Bills just shot themselves several times, and and then to watch them come back, to watch the Jags.
Yeah, I didn't see the comeback. I was on a Pine Lodge doing what was it? I can't remember what I was doing, but I watched. Oh, they swapped it over because the World Cup was on, so I was left American football. No, I was kind of tired and I fell asleep, but I caught that 6 minutes where Emmanuel, he did 3 picks in a row, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or they managed to turn the ball over
a fumble
each
and
time.
2 picks, I think.
Yeah.
And like I had Bortles playing in my fantasy as my QB for 1 week only, and I was just roaring at him the whole time because when they took that lead, he didn't get any points because they were all turnovers, and then when you try and get them to build on the lead, they were just going 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0.
I didn't. What happened? The Bills came back into the game, and they just threw it away again. They did in the last 5 minutes.
It was like the Jags went behind after conceding. What must have been at least three touchdowns anyway, a couple of field goals maybe. They went 4 points down, and then lo and behold, they go behind, and Bortles decides to play a little and starts throwing passes, picking out receivers for fun, and does a great drive, finishing in a touchdown, and they went 3 points ahead, and the Bills had a possession and enough timeouts, I think, to to get up the field for the field goal, but I think Jags just I can't remember now off the top of my head. There's so many games to remember, but I think they put up a good stop and got the win. Maybe undeserved, but the Bills just killed themselves.
Yeah,
I thought it was a great game though. Very exciting.
The next game I have up here is the Falcons versus Titans. So that was 10-7.
I think the less said about this one, the better.
Moving on
To
the Saints against the Colts, and this was another comeback by the Colts later on, but I don't think they were ever in danger of winning the game. I mean, at one stage there, I remember now. I had a gig in Pine Lodge on Sunday night, so I was looking at my team at one stage. I had something like 10 points, and Fox was on about 40 odd. Andrew Luck was having a mare again. There was nothing going right, but they came back late into it, but it was in garbage time. There's no way. I think the sign of life from the New Orleans Saints, but they were
27-0 up and they won 27-21.
Yeah,
so
they're not.
It never looked.
They're not a great team.
No,
but the Colts are looking terrible as well.
All right, next up,
we'll actually skip the next game up for the moment because we've a guest in a minute. I'm going to ask him about.
Okay.
He's a Lions fan. He can open up with last week's game against the Lions versus against the Vikings. So the Bucks. This is a good old game actually as well. The Bucks against the Redskins.
Yeah. Bucks ran out to a very quick lead. Again, it was 24-3 up.
Oh, that's
I
right.
Think like that.
I think the Skins are down 24 points at one stage or something. They made a last minute. I think it was basically obviously it was the last drive, but there was nothing left on the clock basically.
No.
Cousins and the other bit of news he was caught in a gift then, wasn't it? Saying you like that.
Yeah.
So that was all over. He's trying to break the net, and apparently he's set up. He's merchandising. You like that? T-shirts, hoodies, and everything, and it's all going to charity. So it's good to see. It's good to see a bit of good coming out of that GIF scenario. So the Skins they show that they've a bit of bottom. They have a bit of bottom end. Like they're not going away. And
but it also shows that the Bucks have huge amount of talent. But they, just like the Jags, put up a nice score going in halftime, a nice lead, and then they just collapse when they see. Yeah,
I think Mike Evans get injured again.
No, he's okay.
Or is it Vincent?
Jackson.
Vincent Jackson, yeah. But we've said it numerous times over the last few weeks. If everything fell into place for them, well, I think Lovie Smith. I think his day is done as well. Lovie, his.
Well, their attitude is we'll score points, but they also concede a lot of points. Their D is not good.
Well, but that used to be Lovie Smith's. He came up with the whole Tampa 2 thing, didn't he? Back in the day, I think he was one of the main instigators of the Tampa 2 defense, which then he brought to Chicago with him and around the place. But their defense is certainly not one of their strong points. No.
Either way, neither of these teams are going to be.
The next game up here we have Kansas City. So we've been dissing them for the last few weeks.
Yeah, we all went against them. It's even with a
but
QB3.
I suppose Pittsburgh Steelers lost. So the Steelers are going to be under pressure, but I can still see them qualifying, still getting a wild card.
Well, now with Ben back, and that frees up Antonio Brown for actually catching some balls.
I don't think Antonio Brown has had a miserable few weeks with Vic and Landry under shotgun there. There's been nothing happening.
You need the gunslinger.
Yeah. Okay. So the next game is probably the game that everybody was talking about. So yeah, as you can see, we've changed the background set slightly there. Queeve has eventually brought down the Pine Lodge Fantasy League trophy, of which he is a winner, and you see he's also brought down his Pats hoodie. So I hope the double XL now, buddy, because otherwise I've slim enough hope of actually wearing it. But if it doesn't fit me,
it's coming back with me. It's
coming back.
Here.
Oh, it's not. Oh, yeah, it's only down.
It's just here for show, to kind of stick it to the Jets. Even though the game was I thought two very good teams. The Jets held the lead for at least half the game, and as the Pats tend to do, they're 5 points down going into the fourth quarter. Two very good drives down the field, 2 touchdowns, and I was very impressed with the Jets. I think they'll make the playoffs via wild card probably, but they did make some errors.
They did
in
make
the game.
They went for the all-out blitz on Brady. Was that the go-ahead touchdown that the Gronk got? They basically let the Gronk uncovered. I think it was 3rd and short, and the Gronk. It was definitely in the red zone. I don't think it was in goal, but I think he had a 7 or 8 yard catch and run into the end zone. And the other thing, of course, like the Jets get the ball. They do the hard things. They get the ball back from the kickoff, which is only the first or second time.
The onside kick.
The onside kick it's only the first or second time it's been done this season so far. And then Brandon Marshall again comes in with one of these inexplicable things. He never got back onside for the subsequent. Well, I suppose Fitzpatrick threw the first ball down the field into the center of the field. They're out of timeouts.
They should be going for the sideline.
They should have been going for the sideline to stop the clock.
It was bad clock management.
They try and get it back and spike the ball. They spike the ball too early, and Brandon Marshall's offside, and the game is over. Todd Bowles is sick as a pig. But he had made a couple of strange decisions earlier on where he hadn't called timeout when
they were marching down the field before they got the field goal.
Yeah,
he had an opportunity to call timeout. There was about maybe 100 seconds left on the clock, and he just let it wind down.
You know
it was
yourself,
a strange decision.
every second counts in the last 2 minutes
in Foxborough.
And
especially.
Well, maybe they would have got down. They would have got the touchdown to force the overtime, and you never know what's going to happen then. But
no, it was a big win for the Patriots, and Jets fans, don't be too disheartened. All right, there's a good team there.
Right,
sure.
The next game we have here, and we just mentioned there a while ago as well, the Dolphins came out like they're like a team possessed now. I can't remember what is the tight end coach is. What his name?
Dan Harrington.
Dan Harrington, is it?
Is it Dan Harrington? Is that the poker player?
That's the poker player.
Yeah, it's Dan something.
But he's got they're playing with fire in their bellies.
Yeah.
So they're actually going to the Pats next week or
tonight.
This week, tonight. So and we'll go on to that. And the Texans, they're abject. We spoke about them already at length. They're abject. So that was a big scoring game. Anybody took the overs there? 42, over 70 points in that game. Next up, we have the Rams against the Browns, and just basically it was a Todd Gurley show. Not much else to see here. We'll just move on quickly. So this was another great game. The Raiders against the San Diego Chargers, the Superchargers. And the Raiders, we always play the Raiders theme song. I just love that. I love that song. So basically that is the theme music, and they are my favorite AFC team, and they're bad boys, and I'm a bad boy. So and of course I'm rabbiting on. Now he's looking at me.
I threw the eyes up to heaven there.
3
Sorry.
and 3 are
the
Raiders. And for those viewers, guests, or viewers, listeners, Queeve has a bet with another member of the Point Launch Fantasy team, Decky, of Brady's a Cheat of the Jets, our phone and guest from last week, of 50 quid that Decky says they'll hit eight games. And no.
8 wins.
8 win. Yeah.
They'll hit 8 games, right, it's
8 games as in wins. Okay? They
Yeah.
win 8 games. So how do you feel about that now?
Well, I had this down for a win for the Chargers, so I was hoping for 2 and 4 for the Raiders after this, but it's 3 and 3, and the sweat is on. It was pretty much a cakewalk before this, I would have thought, but they are playing some good stuff, and
Amari Cooper is just, he's a phenomenon.
And Latavius Murray is
Latavius
running
Murray,
well.
And plus I know that a few different tight ends. One guy, Walford, got in for a nice touchdown. Derek Carr seems to be he's getting protection from his offensive line, and he seems to be hitting the runners.
And Woodson is turning back the years in defence. He's
he had another
he played unbelievable.
Another interception there again, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's 37 or 38 years of age now, I think, is he?
Yeah, he's 38. I think they said in the commentary. Yeah, so
Watch
Chargers.
out. Lock up your daughters. The Raiders are in town.
Yeah. All right.
Up to the here we go. Our fave, the NFC least matchup: Cowboys versus the Giants. I think I actually fell asleep during this game.
This game was terrible.
It was another error
God, it was
strewn.
awful, yeah.
So the Giants came out there. So when is Romo coming back? Any news of Romo?
It's going to be another few weeks, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
again,
it just shows you how much a team they missed their QB. Pittsburgh did well to get 1 or 2 wins while Big Ben was away.
Yeah,
but Dallas have just done nothing. Like they tried Cassell last week. He hasn't worked out, but I think he was better than.
I think he was better than Whedon.
Brandon
He
Whedon,
had a few good throws, but all in all, the team just can't function without.
Yeah. So then moving on to
Romo.
the next week, the next game was still from the other NFC least team, the Eagles against the Carolinas, and Carolina just nice, not a nice win for them. Moving on to 6-0.
Bradford was awful again. I can hear Sanchez in the background stamping his feet.
And the Monday Night Football game was the awful Ravens against the Cardinals. And the Cardinals, I thought they probably
weren't very good.
Yeah, I thought they would. They won the game. They had one crazy decision that went their way when Chris Johnson seemed to land
on top
of
one of the defenders.
One of the Baltimore secondary, and we were all waiting for a whistle. John Harbaugh was going apeshit afterwards. The whistle never came, so Chris Johnson said, "All right, nice one." He just jumped up and ran the extra 50 yards in for the touchdown, and the boys with the black and white stripes put their hands up and they gave him the score. And
he came just short of the touchdown, but yeah, he gained another.
Did he not? I thought he got.
He
the
got knocked
touchdown.
out on the 10-yard line.
But it was.
He got an extra 50 out of it.
Yeah, I mean there have been a couple of bizarre plays. Like I don't know, did we mention this last week? I thought I was going to bring it up at some stage about the whole catching. Is it a touchdown? A football motion, because there seemed to be 2 or 3 plays that looked exactly the same. And one time that it was given, like the Lions would definitely got what I thought was a dodgy.
That one was dodgy.
Yeah. And then I suppose the Lions, they came a cropper last year in the playoffs. Oh no, that was another thing, wasn't it? But Des Bryant's famous one that was against the Packers, isn't it?
Yep.
So like from week in, week out, then they've got the talking head, the refs inside in the office or whatever on the game. And we just don't know what the hell is going on half the time, like. So, all right. So, will we?
Why don't you chat away there while I
yeah,
ring?
For once, no, it's not me who's after messing up.
I'll
right?
ring up our guest and.
So I'll just actually introduce our guest. So I actually gave a shout out to Gary Murphy.
All right, it's ringing there now.
Who's up
Michael.
in Dublin? Will you just speak to him quickly while I just get the NFL scores for next week up and running. So Gary is an avid. He's an avid Lions fan. And he. Have you got it on loud phone there? No, loudspeaker. So Gary is we'll actually leave him do his own introductions, I suppose. How's it going?
How are you doing?
Very good. Is that coming out alright?
Yeah, I'm good.
Excellent. So, Gar, look, will you actually just introduce yourself to the podcast?
I'm Gary Murphy, and I work in Dublin City University as a professor for my sins.
Oh, and I thought you were the janitor up there.
I'm a lifelong fan of the Detroit Lions.
Ooh.
Since I was 15 years of age, and I'm now sadly 47. So that's 32 years of pain and heartache, basically.
So I just do my quick sums there. 30 was Barry Sanders running the show then.
No, he didn't come until he was drafted in 1989, and I'd been watching since Channel 4 first showed American football in 83, the 83-84 season.
For the love of God, why the Lions?
Well, I tell you now, I saw them on Channel 4 that season, and I knew they were owned by the Fords, or I read somewhere that they were owned by the Ford family, and of course there was a Ford factory in Cork City, and funnily enough, my next door neighbour's father worked for Fords, so I put 2 and 2 together and came up with the fact that I would follow the Lions.
The logic
of, course,
of youth.
Blue collar working class kind of thing appealed to me as well, and that was a terrible mistake, really.
Yeah, because I
can
can remember watching that. Like everybody was basically a Bears fan then back in those days, really, weren't they?
Yeah, that was the old NFC Central, and of course the famous Bears 85 team, the Monsters of Midway. They were obviously sensational.
They have that guy on Sky
division,
Sports now.
People either became Bears fans or New York Jets. They were a popular team because of the sort of supposed Irish connection that they wore green, and they were a popular pick. And of course, the Bears beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl in the 85 season, so the Patriots obviously became quite popular as well, but I don't think there was anyone following the Lions except me, really.
Yeah, but the Patriots were a sad old team in those days, like, weren't they?
Yeah, they got to the Super Bowl that year, which was a kind of a once-off, but the 49ers were also big in the sort of mid-80s, and, Joe Montana, Dan Marino with the Dolphins. There was those types of teams and they were the teams shown mostly on the NFL show on Channel 4, which was hosted by Mick Luckhurst, who you might remember was a kicker with a number of teams, including the Atlanta Falcons. He was British, and he was the big export from Britain to the NFL. And that's when I started watching it. And of course, the scores used to come in, it would be on Monday nights, and you wouldn't know the scores until the following day. So the one time I do remember the Lions doing well, of course, was the 91-92 season when they got to the NFC Championship game and were trounced by the Washington Redskins, who went on to beat the Bills that year. And of course, that was during the famous 4 Super Bowl defeats in a row that the Bills suffered. Yeah, but the Lions were actually quite competitive for a long time in the sort of 80s and 90s, and it's really been it was in the terrible Matt Millen era of the 2000s when they reached their course in Nadir in 2008 and 16 season, which was pretty hard to take, as you can imagine.
I saw the Matt Millen of Football Life, and he just did his best to kind of just draw a line under the whole sorry episode.
Yeah, like they were, as I said, they were pretty competitive for a long time, and Sanders, of course, was a sensational pick. They picked him at the third pick in the 89 draft. Troy Aikman went first to the Cowboys, and then a guy called Tony Mandrich, who was a huge bust, went to the Green Bay Packers. He was supposed to be the greatest tackle ever to come out of college, was a bust. And the Lions got great value out of Sanders, but the teams were very up and down, and he obviously then retired early in sort of deep frustration when he was on the verge of being the greatest runner of all time, really. Yeah,
he ended up looking for it, didn't they? They lost the playoff game again it was just heartbreaking circumstances, whatever, wasn't it?
Yeah, they lost the playoff game to Tampa Bay, I think, and then he got a 2,000-yard season. He was really just unbelievably explosive and a hero to all sorts of Lions fans. But I think the fact that they never built a genuine contender, as I said, they did get to the NFC Championship game with him, and he was early in his career then, but I think the following season they had a losing season, so they've been just up and down. But of course, the 2000s then under Matt Millen and a variety of coaches, Steve Mariucci, sort of Marty Mornman-Haig, famously Rod Marinelli, they were all really terrible times. And of course, they rebuilt themselves under Jim Schwartz, to some respectability, but this season has been really terrible after getting to the playoffs last season. Yeah,
well, I kind of slagged off Caldwell there because sometimes I think he just lacks a bit of imagination. Obviously, the other news is Lombardi, famous football name.
Joe Lombardi got the boot, and it's not terribly surprising because, basically watching the games, they're trying to do the old New Orleans, short passing game, which Drew Brees was a master of, and I don't think that's really Matt Stafford's forte. Really, when he took the Lions to the playoffs in 2011 under Schwartz, and then last year, there was a sort of old-fashioned launch it along to Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, he is a bit of a gunslinger, and they have some great offensive weapons. Amir Abdullah kind of came out of the starting gates very quickly this year. I had him on my fantasy team.
Issues. Yeah, he's had
fumbling.
The big problem has been the offensive line, which, as you might have seen last Sunday, was a complete shambles against Minnesota. 7 sacks. I thought at one stage Stafford would be knocked out of the game. He might end up in hospital. It was just ludicrous. He had no time to even set his feet, not a mind to throw the ball, and they were just completely overmatched. But that was a line that 2 years ago, when they really collapsed in the last 4 games, when they really should have won the division, was a pretty good line, and three of the same players are playing. Now they've had some injuries, but it's really collapsed. And the other big problem, of course, as you know, is that the great defence from last year has been decimated because principally of the loss of Indomitian Sue and Nick Fairley from the defensive tackle positions. Obviously, they let Sue go, which was a terrible mismanagement to Miami. Nick Fairley, although he was very inconsistent, he was a good talent, but he was very inconsistent. But he was a loss, and they let him go to the Rams. And then, of course,
DeAndre Levy is injured as well. Yeah,
and their secondary has been has been poor this year. That was a high spot last year with Glover Quinn. And Rasheen Mattis and others playing quite well has been pretty weak. So all in all, this season has been, it's been a fiasco. They were quite lucky in one way to beat the Bears in the one game they've won. Otherwise, we might be looking at another 0-16 season, and I don't think any Lions fans.
Well, who if they're obviously you're not going to London this weekend, are you?
I am, yeah. No, I'm bringing my 13-year-old son.
Wow.
We went last year, which was extraordinary because obviously they fell way behind early and launched a great comeback to win on the last second field goal taken twice. And when I bought my tickets to the Chiefs this year, I was fully confident that they would be, 5-2 again or somewhere pretty decent. And now I find them at sort of 1-6, and the season, to all intents and purposes, over. Like when they go on their break, they come back to play Green Bay in Green Bay.
Ouch.
And as all Lions fans would know, that we haven't beaten the Packers since 1991, which is just ludicrous, really. They've had some terrible beatings in Lambeau, and they've had some really heart-aching losses, particularly a couple of years ago where they lost in a shootout with Matt Flynn when the Packers stood Rodgers down because they had qualified they had won the division already. So it's they've had some pretty disasters there. So I can't see them obviously winning that game. So even if they were to beat the Chiefs, they will. The second half of the season looks a bit of a stretch at this stage. So
how do you
looking to the draft again?
Yeah. How do you see this Sunday's game going?
Well, I think the Chiefs are really mediocre, both defensively and offensively with Alex Smith. They've lost Jamal Charles, of course. Their defense has been hit and miss. It looks really good on paper. So the Lions, one would hope that the offense will show a spark of life under the exotically named Jim Bob Cooter, who is the new who is the new offensive coordinator.
I saw that recently. Yeah.
So he was involved, of course, with Peyton Manning in Denver. Now, of course, as everyone knows, Manning is really his own coach anyway, but he's got good pedigree, although he's only 31 years of age. So you might see that they might come out, and I'm hopeful for a win. But I think for neutrals, it's definitely not the most exciting game. It's two teams with, losing records and going nowhere this season, certainly.
Well, if we start our picks section, Gary, with this particular game, what we do is every week we take the line from Bet365 for the spread, and for this game you can get the Lions plus 5.5 points. So what do you reckon? Do you think they can cover that?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Lions will win. I think they'll win by more than a touchdown. I think they'll come out throwing the ball, and surely they'll have resolved some of their protection issues. And I see them just scoring more than Kansas City, who are so offensively challenged. As you'll remember, they had troubles. They went over a year without throwing a touchdown pass to a wide receiver, which is unheard of in the modern NFL. So I think the Lions cover it. Yeah, I do.
What do you think, big man?
Yeah, I suppose like the Chiefs had their first win in a few weeks last week. I don't know much about the game. Who did Macklin get on the score?
No, he wasn't playing at all. He was out injured. He's back. He's back this week though. Yeah.
Kelce, I'm picking him up every week, and he still doesn't seem to be doing anything. Yeah, I think like the Lions, they've probably played a couple of good teams, and they've come out the wrong side of it. Obviously, we spoke with this Gary down when I met you in Bunnies there a few weeks ago. They probably should have beaten the Seahawks that night.
Yeah, obviously the famous batted ball in the end zone saga, but of course Johnson really should have punched it in for the touchdown anyway. I read somewhere that he was a tenth of a second from scoring a touchdown, and the defence played quite well that night. And of course the Seahawks have had their own troubles this year. And it was just one in many sorry saga of Lions defeats, I'm afraid, that one. But I think they should have enough. I think they should have enough on Sunday.
Yeah, I think 5.5 points is generous. We're all taking them plus 5.5 there, I think. So, right, as you're there now, we'll get you to pick your picks for the other games, Gary, if you don't mind.
No, I'm quite happy to help out.
Okay, we'll start with tonight's big AFC East showdown. Pats host the Dolphins. The spread is a big 8.5. I have gone for the Pats to cover this because at home, I think the Dolphins, since their resurgence, have played two bad teams. So I think the Pats at home could put up a lot of points, and I think 8.5 is just about cover that.
Yeah, apparently since 2007 they've won all but one game in the NFC East at home, and Brady is just playing, he's just playing lights out. So it's just really amazing, and I would, of course, he has some history with Ndamukong Suh from last year's game with the Lions, and Suh has been a bit of a disappointment with Miami, although he got his first sack last week, and they've had the two good wins under the interim coach. And Tannehill played very well last week at quarterback in their big win, but I just tend to think the Patriots are just too good all across the board, so I expect them to win by over the 8 points. Yeah.
Michael?
It depends which is this Miami resurgent? Is it going to continue? I think it's going to be closer than that. It's a divisional game. I know Miami beat them last year at home. I can't remember what the corresponding fixture was. I think it was later on in the season, and the Pats hosed them. But just as you're mentioning Ndamukong Suh there, is there anybody that he doesn't actually have previous history with?
That's very true. That's
very good.
true. He is certainly an acquired taste. And,
yeah, he reminds me a bit like myself when I was in the rugby playing days, or Peter Classy. He's a bit of an abrasive character.
Abrasive would be putting it mildly, I think.
So I'm going to pick the Finns there to kind of keep it.
Keep it interesting.
Keep it interesting. To keep it under. I think the Pats won't beat. I think the Pats will win, but we
under 8.5
under the spread. The spread.
Next game, Arizona go to Cleveland. You can get the Browns plus 4.5, and this is a tough one, but I don't know why, but I've taken the Browns plus the 4.5 points.
What?
Yeah.
I think Manziel is going to be playing in this game, so it depends if
Yeah.
he's been out partying or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently he's not going to face discipline for this new incident he's been involved in. I tend to think that the Browns are probably just one really good quarterback away from being competitive, and of course, a bit like the Lions, they've had a rather tragic history for the last 50 years as well of pain and heartache.
Well, at least like the Browns have won the Super Bowl, haven't they? Or they haven't actually?
No. They're themselves and the Lions are the two existing franchises who haven't even been to a Super Bowl.
That have been around, and like they came so close that time. Bernie Kosar.
Well, that was the famous fumble on the 1 yard line, Ernest Biner, I think, and up against Denver and the great John Elway teams of the 80s as well. I remember watching the highlights of that game the following day. That was
and of course, when Belichick, I don't know if you've ever seen that Football Life, the Cleveland '95. That's just outstanding piece of work.
Yeah, and of course, that's the big mistake, obviously, in terms of when you dump coaches. He had a winning season and then a losing season before they sacked him, and of course, I think probably got on as the second greatest coach after Vince Lombardi in the history of the game, with his great record over the past decade or so. Well, Cleveland have had a rather tortured history, and again, but they've had pretty awful quarterback play for guts of 2 decades. No, I don't think Manziel is the answer in the long term. But they're competitive, and they're usually competitive at home. But I think Arizona have a lot of firepower offensively. So
well, actually, funny enough, I know sometimes fantasy has absolutely no bearing whatsoever in the real world, but actually Josh McCowan was actually in the top 3 fantasy scoring backs for the last 4 weeks. So it's like anything else, you can make those numbers tell you anything that you want if you look hard enough.
You can, but I think Arizona are pretty strong and competitive, and I think they will. I don't see the Browns.
Yeah, I know.
And you're going along with that?
Oh, Arizona all the way.
Okay.
Arizona all the way.
All right, next up, the undefeated Bengals visit the Steelers, who, by all accounts, will have Big Ben back as starting QB. The spread is you can get the Bengals plus 1.5 points. So that betting tells me that Big Ben is absolutely starting this game, and I'm still taking the Bengals plus points
Well,
in this one.
this is basically the AFC Divisional Championship.
Yeah.
It's the last chance saloon for
Well, Pittsburgh have to win at home.
Pittsburgh have to have a shout. I still think they're going to qualify as a wild card, but it's hard to knock the Bengals. I think they look very strong all around. Tyler Eifert sang his praises before, and the running back committee, Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill.
Yeah.
And they've got a couple of other wide receivers. They don't have any one guy doing an amazing job, but they just seem to have so many guys that they can go to. That's hard to who to know who to cover on each scoring down.
Yeah, and defensively they're very strong. Obviously with the big nose tackle, and they don't have any great standout stars defensively, but they're not giving up a lot of points. I tend to think though that this is Pittsburgh's season is pretty much on the line here. If the Bengals get to 7-0, they won't be caught in the division, and I tend to think Pittsburgh with Big Ben back might hold on at home.
Okay. What do you think?
I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Okay, you're going with me.
1.5. It's going to be very tight, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be tight, but I go for Pittsburgh.
Okay. Right. We move on to the Vikings. Go to the Bears, and
Well, the
this.
first thing to say is the Bears are terrible because
Yeah.
they lost to the Lions. So
Yeah. Well.
and their defense is really there's not much happening. Their Jay Cuts are fantastic one week, terrible the next. And the Vikings under Mike Zimmer, and I saw them last week against the Lions. Their defense is it's tough. It's only conceding 16 points a game, and they should have no fears going into Soldier Field.
I didn't actually watch the game, Gary. There was a bit of controversy there about AP. He said that he ate some dodgy shrimp, but the news around the world that he was actually after swallowing. It's a disgusting habit. I don't know how guys. I've seen guys when we used to play a bit of poker there before, and all the Swedish guys used to be chewing it and I tried it once, and I was going. Ugh! It tastes bad enough, but why would you swallow it?
I know. In fact, the Lions actually held him pretty well for most of the game. We got off to one big run, but the Lions fans really were offensively rather than defensively last week. But he's obviously playing pretty well since he came back.
Spared the rod.
Without saying the world, but I think it's Chicago are pretty poor really, and I would expect Minnesota to cover the spread and win.
Yeah, I mean the line is confusing me. It's you get the Bears +1, which I would have thought would have been much higher.
Yeah, I would have thought so too, but
So,
I think Minnesota win that one.
Yeah, I think
I think when it comes down to these divisional games, there's usually a bit more. It's just like the derbies, whatever, between Cork and Kerry, whatever.
Form goes out the window. Yeah. We're all taking the Vikes anyway, I assume there.
Yeah, Vikings.
Okay, next up, the Giants go to the Saints. Saints at home -3 points is the spread. I've taken the Saints.
Oh my God, this is.
Oh, it's
This is too
it's
bad,
horrific. It's horrific, but
horrible
I'm just going with home advantage.
So the Saints are at home.
Yeah.
What's the spread?
3.
Yeah, the Saints were tremendous at home up till basically the end of last season and most of this season, where that famous Superdome home advantage.
Yeah.
Sort of went out the window.
They lost 6 on the
They
bounce.
pulled it together the last couple of weeks, and I think the Giants are very hit and miss as well. So
Yeah.
I think the Saints at home, I'll plump for them.
Okay.
I think Breeze is playing competently, and I think I go for
The defense has improved somewhat as well.
Yeah, well, lads, I don't know. I actually forgot to mention this in the news section earlier on. The four-finger death punch could be back in the scene here. JPP is after apparently re-signing. He's got 4 fingers, so he can stick 2 of them up at Drew Brees at some stage. But apparently he's after signing to a
1-year deal.
A 1-year incentive-laden contract. So we'll see if he's able to keep his fingers in the pie this time and stay away from the fireworks.
Yeah, but the fact that he'll have to use his hands so much at that position is just.
I know
I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I have to say.
What do you think anyway, Mike?
I'm gonna go for the Giants.
Okay. All right. Next, Chargers go to the hapless Ravens. Well, they're both pretty hapless, to be honest. But
they're both pretty hapless. The Ravens this year they've lost a lot of close games. games, and of course they did win a very close game against Pittsburgh, but they've lost, including last Monday's game against the Cardinals. The Chargers, Rivers really should have beaten Green Bay 2 weeks ago, and then they were hopeless last Sunday.
Oh, they were terrible,
against the Raiders. So they're very hit and miss, but I tend to think, and for the other thing about San Diego is the franchise might be moving. There's now a petition from certain Charger fans to keep them in the sunny south of California, but they're not that good, and I think Baltimore at home should have.
It's Baltimore -3, so I've taken the Ravens as well here. Yeah.
Yeah, I take the Ravens.
Okay.
I seem to be opposing you all along the way, lads. I'll take the Chargers. Philip Rivers is having. He's putting up huge figures. It's not actually.
It's a red zone where they're having trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't punch it in from the one in Green Bay a few weeks ago, and 4 tries. And,
who's there? Who have they got? Running back. What's his name? Danny Woodhead is their kind of third down back. They don't seem to have any kind of big.
Brandon Oliver was getting the carries against the Raiders.
Yeah, and they got rid of Ryan Matthews over to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But of course, it's River to Keenan Allen is their big sort of play.
He's the wide receiver, yeah.
Melvin Gordon hasn't really.
Melvin Gordon,
they drafted him a year back, so that's exactly it. Yeah.
And TJ Yeldon is with the Jags. And just kind of what you're going on about there about the relocation to LA. It's the usual American way, isn't it? They put a gun to the local authorities' head, build us a new stadium, or else we're buggering off. So there's talks about St. Louis, the Rams going as well, and they talk about the boys. Oh.
Well, yeah. So they talked about St. Louis, Oakland, and San Diego.
Right.
Going potentially to Los Angeles.
Yeah, but then I think they'll have to rejig the whole league then, because they won't have 2 teams in the same neighborhood in the same division, not to mind the same conference.
Well, that's true, but of course it's a huge TV market, LA, and the TV rights, just the money is so astronomical.
Yeah.
That it's hard to see a team not in LA in the near future. So, and the trouble with San Diego is they've had historic trouble, even when they were really good a couple of years ago, selling out Qualcomm Stadium, which is I've never been there, but I hear as NFL stadiums go, it's not as
it's pretty old. It's pretty
old
old school, yeah. Because that team there, when Marty Schottenheimer was the manager, and Dalian Tomlinson, that was they had a very good team there that time.
They had the young Rivers, of course, and they had Sean Merriman in the linebacker.
Drew Brees was there with them. Is that time as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, they got rid of Brees. They drafted him, and they got rid of him when they traded. With the famous Eli Manning Philip Rivers trade of 2005, and they shipped Breeze on, but they've been sort of disappointing the last couple of years. The Chargers, they're sort of 8-8 and competitive. Now, of course, they got to the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago against Denver 2 years ago, I think. But this season's been a tough one for them, so I don't see them doing very much. And I think Baltimore will get their second win on Sunday.
Alrighty, we move on to 49ers, go to the Rams divisional game. The Rams are huge 8.5-point favourites.
The 49ers are just a basket case this year. It's one way it's pretty sad to see after the tremendous game they played against the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game a couple of years ago, which they won in the last second. Richard Sherman interception of Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Was a complete disaster with Jim Harbaugh moving to Michigan in what clearly was a power struggle. No one seems to have any idea what's going on there.
Well, I was only having a chat there with Polly in the shop across the road there the other day. I was talking about Eddie Bartoli.
Yeah.
And so once he was really all about. Well, I suppose there was no cap in those days either per se. But his nephew, Jed York, they just don't seem to know where they're going, and that feeds down from management. How they let Harbaugh go, I don't know, because he got them out of nowhere again after years of mediocrity, and then they seem to be going back into the same way that they were.
I can remember when Mike Singletary was the coach, and they were really going nowhere, and Harbaugh came obviously from college football, and where he had huge success, turned it around really pretty quickly, and change the culture in the locker room, so to speak. And it's been a bit of a shambles this year. I can't see how they go into St. Louis and do anything really. The Rams are dangerous. They're dangerous but inconsistent, of course. And I would be astonished if the 49ers do very much for the rest of the season. So I'm going for St. Louis, who are really dangerous on offense with Tavon Austin, and they've got some dynamic players, and they're very strong defensively with a big front four. So I go for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Todd Gurley seems to be the breakout star, the rookie. I'd say he's well up there for rookie of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
If he continues on, Mariota was probably up there at one stage. He's kind of fallen by the wayside to a certain extent.
He was up there for one game, maybe.
As has Jameis Winston. But I'd say Todd Gurley, he looks like could be years in him,
And he's had 3 successive running games of over 100 yards, so he really looks like the real deal, certainly.
What do you think about the spread? 8.5 points, Michael?
Well, that's the one thing, I suppose. They did put up a nice score in their last game. So yeah, I think they'll do it.
All right, I've gone against the two of you. I'm hoping on the Rams, kind of up and down performance ratios. So, right, moving on, we go Tampa Bay visit the Falcons.
Well, I saw the Falcons in London last year, and they were absolutely terrible. They built up a 20-point lead on the Lions and collapsed. Now, of course, they got rid of Mike Smith and brought in Dan Quinn from the Seahawks. And he has rejuvenated Matt Ryan, although Quinn is a defensive coach, and they've had a great start to the season. They're at home. The Tampa Bay defense is really poor. Lovie Smith was brought in to correct that defense, and that hasn't happened. And I'm not sure what the spread is, but
7.
I take the Falcons to beat that spread.
Right. I think the Falcons have been getting progressively worse over the last few weeks. Tampa Bay tend to put up points, so I've taken Tampa plus 7.
I think Falcons. All right, they were lucky to win a couple of games, and they were 5-0 one stage there, I think, weren't they? Before they lost, they were probably
I think last week
shooting above,
winning 10-7 away to the Titans under
that was a poor shot.
Mettenberger, or is that his name?
That was
Mettenberger.
a poor showing, but they
I mean,
won, and they're back at home.
Yeah, I suppose at home they're a different animal. Yeah.
Yeah, once they've got all that crowd noise amped up,
Yeah,
through the
pumped in.
Exactly.
So what are you taking?
I'll take the Falcons. I think maybe that was they had a kind of a blip game. The problem with the NFL is that there's so many games. It's hard to get a strong sample over the 16 games as well.
Okay, and now we turn our attentions to the game of the week. The Titans go to the Texans. Oh Lord, I mean.
Well, I can't really think of a worse game. Two teams who are really just so poor. Mariota obviously looks as if he might have a sterling career, but we've seen highly touted quarterbacks have good first seasons, including someone like Kaepernick, and fade away a little bit, although obviously Mariota was drafted much higher, so number 2 in the draft last year. Ken Whittenhunt, the coach, the Lions apparently were after him before they got Jim Caldwell. Houston are even worse, and of course they had a famous saga with Ryan Mallett this week, who obviously missed his flight.
Yeah,
we've covered that.
We've covered that already.
Well,
We've had actually in our news section, it was basically just Texas the whole way.
Case. I think I don't think this will be featuring in too many highlight reels.
No. There's no spread up because they don't know if Mariota's going to play or not. But
yeah, it's really too poor.
Again, when you have two poor teams like this, I always go with the home team. So I've taken the Texans.
Yeah, I think I'll go for Tennessee. Why not?
Okay.
I'll take
Tennessee as well. Well, it depends who they get as their backup quarterback now.
Well, they're backups for a reason, so it's not.
Well, obviously my man Arian Foster's out as well, so I don't know who Texans are. DeAndre Hopkins is probably keeping them alive at this stage.
Yeah, the whole division is actually it's really weak.
Oh, it's awful, yeah.
You know, I think the Colts might come out on top as the season. You know, although they're a basket case as well with the whole Greeks and.
No, it's the worst. It's the worst
Pagano.
division in the whole of the NFL.
It does seem to be that way.
All right, the less we talk about these lot, the better. We'll move on.
Yeah.
We got the Jets going to Oakland in a fascinating encounter.
This could be a very interesting game. Yeah.
You can get the Raiders plus 2.5 points, but I've taken the Jets minus 2.5 points.
I'm gonna go with the Raiders.
Shock horror.
No, I'm going to go with the Jets. I'm going to go with the away team. I think the Jets are pretty competitive at 4-2 under Todd Bowles, who seems to be a pretty inspired choice as head coach for after the chaos of Rex Ryan, and he's brought in Fitzpatrick, of course, to play quarterback, and I think they'll win a low-scoring game against the Raiders, who can be, you know. They're kind of hit and miss themselves. They're 3-3, and Mari Cooper, the wide receiver, certainly looks like a Calvin Johnson in the making. But I think the Raiders go in and get that one.
Okay.
Sorry, the Jets go into Oakland and win that one.
Yeah. Well, the Raider army are certainly rejuvenated. Our Mari Cooper, big strong boy out of Auburn.
And Derek Carr, of course.
Derek Carr seems to be doing the business, and they've got like Latavius Murray. When he gets rocking, he seems to be able to break a few tackles. So
as I say, it's a game I'm looking forward to now, and it could go either way. But I'll take the Jets just as Gary said, in a low scoring game. Right, we go to Dallas where they host the Seahawks. You can get Dallas plus 6, and I've taken the Seahawks to cover this because Dallas without Romo they're not at the races.
It's been just a complete collapse. They're 2-4. You know, Whedon clearly, you know, he was of course a wasted first round pick for the Browns a couple of years ago. They traded him to Dallas. He clearly couldn't do it there. Matt Castle, who had one great season in New England when Brady was injured a few years ago, but hasn't really done very much else. I think the Seahawks, you know, will just be too strong for them defensively, and you couldn't trust Dallas. And of course, it's after the Greg Hardy incident last week, that locker room seems to be fractured. And I think, of course, after their shameful larceny against the Lions last year, my sympathy for the Cowboys is zero. So I think Seattle will go and win that one.
Okay.
I suppose the one thing is there, obviously Seattle would be seen as a stronger team, but Seattle still haven't really fired offensively yet this season. I think there was signs of life from Marshawn last week, and Jimmy Graham seems to be week by week getting more in sync. But like he's never going to be, he's always only going to be getting 6, 7, maybe 8 targets a game. It's not going to be like we're in the Saints where he was like basically the fulcrum of their offense. But this guy Dockett looked, Russell Wilson had a couple of, I said it earlier on, he had a couple of lovely touch passes to his receivers. We just seemed to be just lobbing it in over the defenders and just into the breadbasket. So hopefully he can do the similar.
You're taking the Seahawks too, obviously,
Seahawks.
Okay, 2 more. We got a big matchup. 2 undefeated teams. The Packers go to Mile High to take on, well, amazingly enough, the undefeated Broncos.
So this is actually the game of the week. This is the game of the week, isn't it?
You get Denver plus 3 points at home, but I've taken Green Bay to cover those 3 points.
It's interesting because, you know, just scanning around sort of the websites and whatever, they're both 6-0, and it's quite amazing in many ways how they are. Manning clearly his arm isn't as it was. Their defense is really very opportunistic, and you know, has most takeaways at this point in the season for many years, I think. And of course, Rodgers comes in as, you know, playing lights out, but his surrounding cast, I think they're feeling the loss of Jordy Nelson pretty substantially. I think it's a tough one to call. I think Rodgers will. I go Green Bay, much as it pains me to say.
Michael?
Just to follow it up there, like they haven't really set the world alight either. They haven't had a 40-pointer yet this year, have they?
No,
I know they missed Jordy Nelson.
Like the San Diego game out last week was pretty
weeks ago,
symptomatic
yeah.
of it. The week before, where they're eking out wins, they're getting ahead early and sort of holding on. Well, one injury to Rodgers would, I'd say, see the collapse of the Packers a bit like
Lord,
a couple
absolutely.
of years ago, where the Lions really should have won the division 2 years ago, and then Rodgers came back and won that amazing game against the Bears. But if there was ever a one-man sort of team in the NFL at this stage, it probably is. It's probably Green Bay. This will get me in touch with get me in fair spot with all the Packer fans, but I tend to think there's a hint of truth in it.
Yeah. So what's the spread again?
3. Get Denver +3.
Denver +3.
I go for Green Bay.
I'm going to go for Green Bay.
Okay, we're all on the same page there.
I think Devontae Adams is rumoured to be back from injury as well, so he hasn't really done anything yet this year, and he could be a surprise packet for the offense. So obviously, James Jones is scoring, and Cobb has been quiet enough as well. Really, I've never just gone. So yeah, we'll see. We'll go Green Bay.
Okay, last matchup, Monday Night Football. Indy go to Carolina. Carolina -7 is the spread. This is pretty easy for me. The Panthers should beat the Colts handy because they're disastrous.
Yeah, the Panthers are undefeated, and I saw them against the big win in Seattle a week or two back, and Cam Newton is kind of playing. He's living. This is of course the former battle of two number one picks, Luck, who's had a poor season, and Newton, who was finally fulfilling the great promise he showed when he was at Auburn, and that Ron Riviera defense of the Panthers is pretty tough, and at home with a dysfunctional Indianapolis team going to Carolina. I was in that stadium, Bank of America Stadium, a couple of years ago for a titanic struggle between Carolina and Tennessee, which was a terrible game. But I can't see the
was the barbecue good there though?
Yeah, it was one of these 1 o'clock games, good old Southern fried chicken and beer earlier on, so I can't remember much of the second half. It was a game actually that Tennessee wiped out the Panthers pretty early in, but it was 2 poor teams. But the Panthers under Rivera have been competitive for, a couple of years, and obviously gave Seattle plenty of it in the divisional run.
Well, I think I said it last year. They seem to be the team that are making the most of what they have, and they're grinding out wins.
And they have a very their defence obviously with Luke Heckley as the sort of the captain at the middle linebacker position has been tough. So I just don't see Indy playing in a weak division, going to Carolina and upsetting the Panthers. So I take Carolina comfortably in that one.
We're all taking Carolina. So that's it. That's the picks done.
All right, Gary.
Well, thanks for having me on, boys. I very much enjoyed my time. It was painful to talk about the Lions. I could go on about painful losses, but thanks for having me on.
Not a
Thanks
problem,
a million, Gary.
Thanks a
Pleasure.
million.
Thanks,
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Okay, now that's the picks done with. We're gonna finally, as this show started out as a fantasy NFL video podcast, we'll move on to fantasy related materials just to finish off.
We better go through this quickly because I'd say we're
well over the.
We're on an hour at this stage already.
Yeah, Gary was fantastic.
Unfair. He had some knowledge,
fantastic.
Some knowledge.
Yeah. So right, let me just load up the fantasy app here. Last week, were there any particular close matchups last week? Commish?
I'm just. Well, can I just talk about my great
You can, of course.
game first?
The floor is yours.
I was up against the Fox, and I had a bit of I had 5 players on bye, and I have a couple of I was very active all last week I think I made about 4 if not 5 trade offers. All were rebuked. Then you came in with a late minute one for Arian Foster. They'd be touching that earlier on.
No, which thankfully was too late.
Which was too late. It just it wouldn't have gone through. So I ended up playing without a flex and without a tight end, and I I put one on the Fox by 30 points. No, there was Andrew Luck came through for me in the end in garbage time. Ian Foster came through for me in garbage time. So it's back on. And of course, we'll get onto that in a second. What other games are there? Duff's Broncos got hosed by Polly. Lucky Jimmy's. Lucky's. That's the second game in a row. I think he's after winning, isn't it? So he's
No, he lost last week, but he's 3-4, which is
he's
very
after putting himself
respectable.
under the mire.
Still in the playoff picture.
Yeah. Nasib had a good win against Brady.
Nasib put up the highest score of the week. Yeah, 133
points. Pat's 4. That was a very good win against one of your close rivals.
Yeah,
at
his
the top.
team didn't really do him any favors last week, thank God. But I put up a decent score.
And
so
then Patrick Point Lodgers
Patrick marches on,
marching on
Yeah.
with another big high score. He's still the top scorer by a mile. So just looking at the table there, I was actually looking at this there the other day, and it's like a mirror image of the league again. Actually, Point Lodgers and Pats 4 are 6-1, and at the bottom you Fox's Army 1-6 and Duff's Broncos 1-6. So basically between 3rd and 10th, there's only one game. It's either 4-3 or 3-4. So basically every match counts. Every game, every week counts. That you're either in the playoff places or you're down in the bottom half of the game. So look, I did take a chance against the Fox. I was going if I was going to be behind coming into the Monday night game, I would have made an emergency trade or picked up somebody just to get 3 or 4 points. I got away with it, but like generally, I would recommend changing out your players. Don't try this at home, kids. It worked out for me.
Oh, you got very lucky.
I got very lucky.
Yeah.
So, do you want to who is on bye this week? Do you want to do you want to give us the buys and the waiver wires?
All right. On bye this week we have Philadelphia Eagles, Bills and Jags, who played in Wembley, of course, and the Redskins. So there are 4 bye teams. And from the waivers this week, let's have a look, see what happened. Actually, when we came in here today, Michael had the top 3 IDP players up on the screen.
We'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get
talk about handing your opponent information.
So I today picked up Rashad Jones, who's the highest scoring IDP player in fantasy, because my other player, Navarro Bowman, is questionable. We have Patrick picked up Kyrie Robinson, dropping Rashad Jennings. Bishop Sankey has been dropped.
The boomerang boy.
Again, by choppers for a defense, and that's about all he's worth. I picked up Sammy Watkins, who's out injured, probably for another couple of weeks. But I think he's worth bringing in because when he comes back,
he's a keeper.
He's a good he's a good player. So who else have we got here? Champagne Fever picked up Darren McFadden, dropping Matt Jones, picking up one bad player, dropping one bad player. So he picked up Marvin Jones for Golden Tate. They much of a muchness there as well. And he picked up Brandon Affel, who in his Patriots debut did not do very well. He dropped
4, 5, 6 balls.
I think it was 6, allegedly. So I mean, he's a good player. He proved last year, so maybe he needed that game under his belt. So he could be a good pickup. He picked up Jay Cutler. This is still Dino picked up Jay Cutler and dropped Eli Manning, which is a strange one.
Yeah, Dino seems to be picking up all the bad quarterbacks this year.
I mean, Eli. He's a good. He's a good fantasy.
He dropped. He had to drop Roethlisberger. I think he picked him back up again.
Yeah, I think
he's
it's
lucky because I was actually gonna snaffle him because I am a little goblin when it comes to picking up players.
Yeah, I'm usually on the ball with stuff like that too. But yeah, and he picked up Big Ben. So obviously, Cutler's only going to be a backup QB for him. Man sitting to my left picked up Ryan Matthews. You had him before, did you?
I had to drop him last week. He was the only player that
and
I
he
could
picked
drop.
him up again. So one of the infamous drop one.
Well, that was. But I just think he's too good a player.
You did a Crockett Gilmore job, like.
Well, I had to drop somebody to pick up a defense.
Yeah.
Ryan Matthews was the only guy that I actually
You're just
deemed.
picking him. You won't be playing him anyway. So
I don't know.
Well,
I think there's talks that
with your stable of running backs,
he is a better fit for the Eagles' offense.
Yeah, we've been hearing that all season.
Than DeMarco Murray.
Yeah.
So I've heard it on the grapevine again. Pro Football Focus or whatever, all these websites are saying that Ryan Matthews is a better fit. So I think we'll see now, and he's a good man for the flex anyway. Hopefully,
Right, we're giving way too much time to a player like Ryan Matthews.
okay,
Move on.
all right. There's one thing I wanted to say actually. Some guys will do anything, like we do our bit for our 5 minutes of fame. But I gotta when we were doing the pre-production here, I saw I had a trade, so I looked. No, I did offer Polly something last week, but what about you think? What about this for a trade? No, Matt Forte, who we shall see now, is one of the top 3 running backs so far this season. For Demarius Thomas, whose quarterback couldn't throw a bag of crisps.
And when
over
he does
the
throw the
counter.
ball to him, he can't catch it.
Emmanuel Sanders, it seems to be the only guy he's actually getting on the end of. He's obviously must have been a good duck shooter or something at some stage. So, Polly, I'm actually just going to go over here now and
Live.
I'm not alive, right? I'm not even countering. I'm just rejecting that straight off. Okay, so be gone, bad trade. There you go. So I'm actually going to go into players. Look, will we actually bring this up then? Do a link there quickly, Queeve.
All right. Just the rest of the waiver trades there before I was rudely interrupted. I picked up Alfred Blue, who is going to be the RB1 for the Texans now that Arian Foster has been ruled out for the season. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't have much confidence in him, but he's a good bench player to have. Decky picked up Ted Ginn for Willie Snead. Bucking Pats picked up Orleans Darkwa for Harry Douglas. And Mick picked up Danny Amendola, who I was also in for. And
come on, the Pats.
It'll be pretty. It'll
it'll
hurt a lot should he be the difference in our matchup.
Well, I think you were projected, and we haven't even bothered doing the projections this week.
No.
But you were down to win by 2 or 3 points.
I'll tell you there now.
I think it's 118 to 121 or something
like
that.
It's a good segue into preview of this week's matchups.
All right. We'll just quickly go on to the there is a disparity between the app, between the tablet, and between the PC version of NFL.com.
Yeah, the tablet is just shit.
The tablet is crap, and I think the app leaves things to be desired as well sometimes. But we'll just bring up this here now. Is it scene 1? I think it is scene 1. Yeah, so if you go on to here, look, I'll just quickly do the leading scorers for the year to date. So Brady, Philip Rivers, and Andy Dalton, and the two boys. Andy Dalton is just coming off bye. Brady's been on bye. I don't think Philip Rivers has San Diego been on bye. I don't think they have.
No.
So that shows the two boys are heading. The running backs, Devontae Freeman, obviously having a huge, but down to Mark Ingram hasn't even broke 100 yet. Devontae Freeman is on 153. I have him, and I also have the number 3 running back, Matt Forte, on 89 points. So there's a big disparity in the scoring there. We'll just move down to the wide receivers. So Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, and Larry Fitz. Not too many points differential between DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones. They're both in the 100 teens. Larry Fitzgerald just under 100. Tight ends, Gronk is leading the way with 91. Gary Barnidge, I think you have him.
I do.
He's a surprise packet there for the Browns. And Tyler Eifert, who I have.
That's your funny.
And then obviously the flex was just same again there again. So down the top kickers, Gostowski for Bucking Pats, Hauschka for Champagne Fever, Seattle Seahawks kicker.
No surprise there.
And Brandon McManus, and the top scoring defensive team, and the Broncos are the top scoring defense special teams, and they're basically carrying the team to 6-0 so far. They're on 99 points, 12 points ahead of the Seahawks, who actually I was surprised enough by that. I know they're a top defense, but sometimes top defense in the real world isn't actually playing to fantasy. And the Cards are the number 3 defense, and it's going on to the IDP. So this is where Queeve saw the information here. So basically, the top scoring IDP player is Rashid Jones. So now you can actually see he's now with Pats for Lombardi. Telvin Smith, who don't even recognise that name to be honest either, was on 73 points. He's just about they've actually similar score. Polly has him, and Corey Graham of the Buffalo Bills is a free agent, boys. So that's your information.
He's on bye though.
He's on bye.
Yeah.
Oh. So that's it. We're gonna go to the matchups. So
yeah,
we'll go.
So obviously the matchup of the week is the battle of the hosts of this particular show. Are you going to bring it up on the screen there, or are we just going to drive on?
I'll bring it up, but we'll actually just I'll bring it up on the screen, but
all right,
we'll just talk away about it. Yeah. I'll bring it up. Just
all right. I've got Rogers back after his week off. Thankfully, Bortles is off my roster altogether. He didn't do much for me. So we got Rogers up against Rivers. I would hope that I would get the edge there. But you never know. Philip Rivers has been putting up some good numbers.
At the running back, as I said, I've got the number 2 and number 3 fantasy running backs. Matt Forte is just coming back off bye, so hopefully he's pretty sharp. Mark Ingram has been doing the business all along. And I'm up against Dion. Well, you reckon you don't know what the story with Dion Lewis is, so
yeah, we won't know. It's probably going to be Alfred Blue in there. So
yeah, and Lamar Miller, obviously he's had a great. He was the top scoring running back last week, wasn't he? The huge number, but
he's up against the champions
against
this week.
The Pats this week, so you've got mixed emotions there.
I need to keep this within 20 points because your guys are going to outscore my guys. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I need to keep it close. And then at wide receiver, where I would fancy I'd make up the points, I've got Keenan Allen and Martavis Bryant against James Jones and Amari Cooper. Now I'd fancy I'd win, but I don't think there's not going to be a whole lot in it.
Yeah, it's
2 on 2.
It's going to be close enough. I also have Devontae Adams, who he hasn't played. He hasn't had much game time. I think he played in the first week and he got injured after that. He could be possibly into the flex. I've put Amendola into flex at the moment.
Yeah.
It depends. Like what kind of a game do you think the Pats? What's the Pats' game plan going to be for Miami? Are they gonna obviously last week against the Jets they didn't run the ball at all, did it? It was through the air. Everything was screen passing and then dink it off to the Gronk as well. What's their? I
don't know. I know you call me Belichick sometimes because of my excellent performances, but I have no idea what way they're going to approach this. It could be. I mean, they went through the air against the Jets, and it worked.
Yeah, they might go for a more balanced game this week, but it's weird. They either seem to go all ground. They just seem to go ground and pound, or exclusively through the air. So maybe they might just go for a more balanced approach this week.
All right, battle of the tight ends is going to be good. Barnage against Eifert, second against third in the overalls. And then the flex, I've got John Brown in there at the moment, but he's carrying a knock, so he might not play. And you've got Amendola, who you picked up ahead of me.
Yeah, and I'll just keep an eye on whoever else kind of comes up. It's I'll just have to do a bit more thinking. The kickers kick themselves, I suppose.
Not huge. Jets against the Broncos, 2 good defenses. And my newly acquired Rashad Jones. The only thing is they're against my Patriots. So, hoping he doesn't get too many sacks. But enough to score me a nice few points. Okay, we'll just quickly go through Duff's Broncos. Take on Nassib. Duff 1-6, Nassib 4-3. It's a must win for Duff. I think we've been saying that every week. We've actually gone through the whole podcast without slagging him off in any way, so that's a good record.
Yeah, like last week we were all laughing and joking. It was kind of a lot more. In fairness, Gary was a very, very good guest to have on, but it was nearly all serious football stuff.
Yeah, Yeah.
It's nice to change it up from week
Absolutely.
to week anyway as well, like, you know.
So, well, they both need to kind of win that Steve just to solidify his playoff position, and Duff to, hold out any hope of getting a playoff place. Polly plays Lucky Jimmy's, battle of the 3 and 4s. Should be a good matchup. Choppers takes on Brady is a cheat. Choppers 3 and 4, Decky 4 and 3. Foxy takes on Dino in basement battle. At this stage now we're in week 8, so everyone needs to win. And then finally Bucking Pats take on Pint Lodgers, who is riding a 5-game winning streak. So good luck to everybody this week. And
lads, I think this could be nearly an hour and a half. So let's just wrap it up because it's just going on and on and on.
Yeah. All right.
We've got so much to talk about, and thanks again to Gary. And like us, give us a share. We'll have more news for you on the Facebook thingy. Hopefully that'll get up and running. Okay.
Later, boys.
Why is there no music coming out? That's why.